Let me start with a little test. Who comes to mind when you think of entrepreneurship? If you're like most people, you'll have thought of somebody on this slide. That's Bill Gates of Microsoft, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, and the Google guys, Sergey and Larry. And it would be no surprise that you thought of them. They're incredible entrepreneurs, built amazing companies that have impact across all of society. But let's try a new test. Who comes to mind when I ask you to think of entrepreneurs in non-technology companies? Is it a little harder? Do you have to stretch a little bit? This is who comes to my mind. These folks are not famous, and they're not rich, but I would argue that they're more important than the folks in the first slide. And I'll tell you their stories in just a moment. But first, let's think a little bit. Why is it that it's so easy to come up with technology entrepreneurs? Well, let me tell you 3 reasons. You're going to hear the number 3 a fair amount. The first is the media. The media love technology entrepreneurs. They're fabulously rich. They come up with amazing programs and that many of us access on a regular basis. Just think about WhatsApp, right? After it was purchased for $19 billion, we all knew about it. Everybody was talking about it. But by the way, do you remember how many employees WhatsApp had when it was purchased? 55. In addition to the media, governments at all levels in the US are concentrating on technology entrepreneurship. National, state, and even down to the level of cities. They're creating enterprise zones in virtually every large city in this country to foster technology entrepreneurship, creating tax incentives and other ways to lure these entrepreneurs into their boundaries. And lastly, there are incubator programs and accelerator programs, all designed to foster entrepreneurship, all focused on technology entrepreneurs, because then they can bring in angel investors and venture capitalists and lawyers and accountants. And they all come together and offer incentives and discounts aimed to get these technology entrepreneurs up and going. So you've got all this attention focused on technology entrepreneurship. But here's another use of the number 3 I want you to think about. What's the percentage of startups in the United States that are actually technology companies? And the answer is 3. It's 3%. And what percentage of employees in the US, of all workers, work for technology companies? 3%. Could it be that our priorities are slightly off? That we're concentrating all this energy and all this attention and all these resources on such a tiny sliver of the US economy when we still have unemployment issues in this country and we want to get things growing? Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 15 years working for technology startups. I'll tell you about 3 of them. One of them I worked with Paul Graham. Paul Graham runs the most famous incubator program in Silicon Valley called Y Combinator. He had a small startup that I helped him with in Cambridge. I also worked for a search engine company. We competed with Google. In fact, we started the same year that Google did. And you know how that story ended. But our company did fine. We ended up getting sold to another one. And lastly, I was in the starting team at TripAdvisor, which is now the world's largest travel website. But 2 years ago, I left that world of technology startups. And I came up here to Lowell, and I'm now running the Merrimack Valley Sandbox, which serves both Lowell and Lawrence, 2 cities just 25 miles north of Boston. And we're fostering entrepreneurship here. Our motto is entrepreneurship for all. And these 4 entrepreneurs are among the folks that we work with. So now let me tell you their stories. Meet Dinaris. Dinaris is in Lawrence. She's a first-generation immigrant from the Dominican Republic. And in 2009, Dinaris faced a situation that none of us would want to be in. Both she and her husband lost their jobs because of the economic downturn. and Danaris was pregnant with her first child. At one point, Danaris' mom stopped by and delivered to the house a $30 food voucher, thinking that would make things a little bit easier for the family. And Danaris didn't use it to buy food for her family. She had an idea for a business, and she went to the food store and she got ingredients that she could bake with. And she spent the whole night baking flan, which is a special treat for folks from the Dominican Republic. And the next day, on no sleep, she knocked on doors all around her neighborhood, and she sold every slice of flan that she had made the night before. And she ended up with $60. She doubled her money. And thus was born Sweet Grace Heavenly Cakes, a business that Danaris now runs and contributes a significant percentage to her household expenses. And the cool thing about Danaris is that she's ambitious, and she wants to eventually own and set up her own bakery. And she wants to have part-time employees and full-time employees, and she wants to train other folks in the Dominican community on how they can set up their own businesses involving baking. Russ and Aaron have one strong common bond. They love to run. Aaron, a few years ago, injured himself running. Went to his doctor, went to the local running store. They both told him the same thing. You ran too many miles on your running shoes. Aaron's talking to Russ, how was I supposed to know I ran too many miles in my running shoes? It's hard to keep track of that. So they came up with a product. Here's Aaron with the Minnow. The Minnow is an insert that you put into your shoes, and it keeps track of your usage. And it tells you as you go down the road and are about to run out of your shoes. And so you can toss them before you injure yourself. Russ and Aaron got so excited about the prospects of their company that they quit their jobs. They're putting in 80-hour weeks building this company. They got things started. They got into retail stores. They were going to conferences. They had product development underway. And then they ran out of money. And it's not for lack of trying. They called on countless angel investors in the greater Boston area looking to raise capital. And the reason that they didn't get that investment is because angel investors are looking at technology entrepreneurs. Now, yes, there is some technology in this product, but it's a product. It's a physical product. It takes costs, money to get those products built, to hold inventory, to send them off to the retailers. And angel investors much prefer software because the costs are pretty limited. It's just people, and then hopefully you'll get a mass of revenues down the road. Unfortunately, what this means is that both Aaron and Russ had to retake their full-time jobs. And they're now putting in 5 or 10 hours a week into the business instead of the 80. I still think it's going to be a successful company. It's a great idea. But it's going to take a lot longer for them to succeed because their growth rate will be considerably slower. Meet Keo. Keo, similar to Danaris, is a first-generation immigrant. She's from Laos. She is a single mom of 3 kids, and like Danaris, she also lost her job recently. While she was looking for a new one, she decided to try to come up with a recipe that she would like for vegan and gluten-free ice cream because she's lactose intolerant. She tried a million different combinations and eventually thought she had something that worked. Tried it out with her friends, they liked it, and so was born Keo Homemade Ice Cream. There she is in a kitchen, commercial kitchen in Boston. The ice cream is going into a sort of a quart container. That ice cream is being distributed and sold now at 22 different retailers around the Boston area at premium pricing, great stores, and she's just on the cusp of signing a deal with a major chain of food stores. Like Danaris, Keo hopes to build a substantial company and have many employees. So when I look at these entrepreneurs, the reason that I think that they're more important than the Bill Gates and the Microsoft and the Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg is because there are literally hundreds of thousands of such entrepreneurs across this country. And they are going to help this country, I think, much more so than these technology firms are. At the Merrimack Valley Sandbox, we work with these entrepreneurs day in and day out, literally hundreds of them. And we've learned some lessons as we thought about our motto of entrepreneurship for all, for how other communities might be able to do the same thing and foster entrepreneurship among these kind of folks. So let me share with you 3 recommendations. Entrepreneurs need networks. Being an entrepreneur is often a very lonely thing. It shouldn't be that way, because entrepreneurs need to talk to 1 million different people in order to succeed. And so the community needs to come together. Business people, nonprofit executives, folks in academia, folks in government. Because just think about it. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg needed help when he got Facebook going? He's at an elite school, he's got faculty, he's got classmates, his family was well-to-do. All those networks already existed. For the folks that come by the Sandbox, this network has to be formed by the community and offered to the entrepreneurs. In addition, the entrepreneurs need to find each other. They take so much out of talking to one another and sharing stories, tips, contacts, inspiring each other. Second, entrepreneurs need space and they need capital. They need space, and it's hard to come by when you're an entrepreneur, because many building owners these days ask for a longer-term lease, 2, 3, 4 years, with extra money down. And if you're starting out with not a lot of capital, that's a really tough thing to do. So the community needs to find some local building owners who are willing to come up with space and do the right thing for the community with terms that are entrepreneur-friendly. In terms of capital, you get together folks who have it. Individuals, foundations, businesses, banks, and you come up with different ways to get money to the entrepreneurs. It could be in loans, it could be in equity investments, or it could just be grants. And it doesn't take a lot of money. These entrepreneurs only need a few $1,000s to make a huge impact in getting them up and started. Lastly, you need to create a culture of entrepreneurship so that it's celebrated day in and day out. In the media, the newspapers, having government people talking about it all the time. It makes such a difference to inspire the community with the successes that are out there, so that folks who have ideas for products and for companies, and they're everywhere, feel comfortable coming forward to the community, sharing those ideas, getting encouragement, and moving forward. And some of those folks are going to succeed. There's a magic to entrepreneurship. I'd like to see it across this country in all communities. Let's see if we can make it happen. Thank you.